That was my speech. Thank you very much. Thank you. This is all by accident. Not that I'm here by accident. I'm here on purpose. But speaking was all by accident. It all seemed to happen about, I'm not going to tell you how long ago, because I don't want you to try to guess how old or how young I am. Where I was unemployed as an actor, I was sitting in Starbucks. And how many of y'all go to Starbucks and sometimes when you get your coffee, you just want to be left alone? Really don't want anybody coming over to you. But then in walks Burt Reynolds. Now, how many of y'all know who Burt Reynolds is? He was a major star back in the 70s, 80s. So Burt Reynolds walks into the Starbucks and he sees me. I see him. By the way, it really wasn't Burt Reynolds. It was somebody that looked like Burt Reynolds. And so Burt Reynolds begins to come over to me. I'm thinking to myself, I'm unemployed. I just want to have my muffin and coffee. And then he asked if he could sit down next to me. Now, in my mind, I was thinking, no, I don't really want that. But then I said, yes, go ahead, let me sit down. And so he sat down next to me, and then he asked me the magical question. So what is it you do? And I told him that I was an actor. And he said, well, how would you like to coach my brokers? Now, I was unemployed at the time, so my next question was, you paying? And he hired me. And that spiraled into me becoming a TEDx coach and me working with entrepreneurs and working with studio executives. And of course, I'm an actor too. But it's interesting because even though I've worked with all these different people and I've done all this acting, there really was a time when I was broke and broken. And so I asked myself the question, why me? Why am I here in front of you today? What have I or anyone that I work with to do with inspiring all of you great leaders? And so I have to go within my own self to try to discover that. And one of the things that I think about is a story. And it's all about an eagle who thought he was a chicken. One day, an eagle's egg was placed into a nest of chickens. And one day the eagle had hatched, and he looked around and he saw he was surrounded by all these little chickens. So the eagle, he began to act like a chicken. The eagle began to walk like a chicken. The eagle began to talk like a chicken. The eagle pecked his neck in the ground like a chicken, and he flew only a few feet off the ground like a chicken. One day, the eagle grew up, and he looked into the sky, and he saw a speck. And the speck became a ball, and the ball became a bird, and the bird became a huge beast, flying in the sky, soaring in the winds. And the eagle, who thought he was a chicken, said to his neighbor who was a chicken, wow, what kind of bird is that? I want to be just like him. But his friend said, well, that's an eagle, the king of all the birds, but don't you give it a second thought. You'll never be like him. So the eagle never, ever gave it a second thought and died, thinking he was a chicken. What a tragedy. Built to soar in the heavens, but spent the rest of his life flying only a few feet off the ground. And when I look into my life, I realize I was the eagle who thought he was a chicken. And it makes me think that there is one thing in my life that's really summed up in one word that transformed my life, that transformed the lives of others, and that rests in you as leaders. And that one word is influence. It was the influence of leaders in my life that transformed my life, for better or for worse. You all being leaders, entrepreneurs, influencers, have this magical power of affirmation on those who look up to you. You literally can transform your life, the lives of your family, the lives of your team, the lives of your organization, the lives of your community because of your influence only if you use your influence in a positive way. When I was a little boy, my father took me to see this movie because he was afraid that I was very timid and very weak at the time. And so he picked me up, he took me to see the movie. When I came back, I started punching, kicking, and screaming. I had just seen Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon. And I wanted to be just like him. So I practiced martial art, and I've been this size since I was 13 years old. But here's the problem. Because I was in martial arts, and because, as you heard in my bio, things went south in Flint with the economy, I was a prime target for gang life, and I got involved. And then there was an incident in the school where one of the gang members had a weapon, and he was trying to catch this kid, and the vice principal saw it from a distance off, and he gave me the weapon, and I took it and hid it, and so the vice principal had to come to the office, and he said, "I know you hid that weapon, where did you hide it?" I didn't say anything. He says, "Okay, I'm gonna give you an ultimatum." He says, "You can continue going the route that you're going, and you can go to juvenile or jail, or I can tell your daddy, or you can do what I know you love to do, which is theater." Now, let me be clear. You can send me to jail, you can send me to juvenile, just don't tell my dad. How many of y'all seen Good Times? My daddy was the real James Evans. Fortunately, because of this intervention with this leader, the vice principal, who cared enough about me to give me that word, that one word that would change my life, I chose theater. Well, that took me to doing plays. And one play that I had the leading role in, and I did it in front of the school, and in the audience was some of the gang members. And I was walking home, and how many of y'all seen Boys in the Hood? It was like a movie, like a scene from Boys in the Hood where the car slowly pulled up and the windows slowly rolled down. I remember that scene with Morris Chestnut. That's what I thought was gonna happen to me. They told me to get in. Got in the car. And he was driving. He said, "Big Phil," that's my first name, that's what they called me back during that time. "We saw you in that play. We don't want you to go this route. We're proud of you. The streets ain't never been defeated. They'll always be undefeated." And they let me out of the car, and that was the last I saw of them. Now just imagine another example of a leader, even though it was a gang leader, who used his influence to do something that literally changed my life. This was during the time, I'm going to date myself, I really didn't mean to do this, but when the crack epidemic hit the United States, this was right when it was happening, and I went away to a performing arts school, and when I came back, a lot of my friends were major drug dealers. Some of them had gone to jail, some of them had been killed. But that one moment from that one leader made all the difference in my life. And so I went on to college. And when I went to college, it was a lot harder there in theater school. It was a lot more stressful. And in a room similar to this, there was this group. It was a Bible group. And this Bible group was playing this movie called Jesus of Nazareth. Very powerful movie. As a matter of fact, this actor, Robert Powell, had played Jesus so well, he seemed like Jesus. But it had an influence on me. And I got involved with this Bible group. And the Bible group had one thing that they believed, which was obedience. But unfortunately, it wasn't obedience to God. It was obedience to the elders. And what they told me, a young 17-year-old kid, knew to being out of Michigan is acting was not of God. And because of the influence of this cult is what it was. And by the way, I am a believer in the real God. But because of this cult and their influence, I quit acting school. Now this acting school was so much like, you could think it was like the Harvard for actors. And I was lost when I came back. But you know, Denzel Washington said something really powerful when I heard him speak. He said, when you forsake your dreams, they will become ghosts that'll keep you up at night and wake you up early in the morning, reminding you, why haven't you fulfilled me? And sure enough, that happened to me, and I found myself waking up reciting monologues, and I got back into acting, but I wasn't the same during this time because of what had happened on the college campus, because of that leader and their influence. So I was always very insecure about who I was as an actor, and I ran into some hard times. And my mother passed away from breast cancer. And it seemed like the whole world turned upside down, and I lost my will to live. And I carried pills in my pocket for the day in which I would do it. And one day I was sitting on a train, and across the way I saw a man that was sitting in lotus position, it's a yoga position, and I was always interested in yoga. And I said, are you a yogi? He said, yes, I am. I said, do you teach yoga? He said, yes, I do. I said, will you teach me? He said, yes, I will. I said, how much? He said, nothing. And I went to learn from him on a regular basis, and he saw that every time I came in, I was very, very sad. So he sat me down, and he told me a story of 20 years ago when he was a young man, and he lost his will to live. And he carried pills in his pocket for the day in which he would do it, and he did it. He did it. And in the hospital room, he found himself hovering over his body. And he saw all of his family members coming in broken, and he wanted so bad in that state to do something to get back into his body because he wanted to console them, but he couldn't. And then boom, suddenly he found himself back in his body. And he said, from that moment on, I dedicate my life to everyone's happiness through yoga. In that moment, I reached into my pocket and I pulled out the pills. And he said, oh, so this is the reason why I told this story. He said, well, you have a choice to make. You can choose to take them and do as you will, or you can leave them here with me. Well, fortunately, because of his influence, I left those pills there with him. And I went on to become an actor. And I went on to become a father. And I'm here in front of you today. So I got involved with Tennessee Shakespeare, and I still had this brokenness within me. Every performance, I always felt insecure. As a matter of fact, I was cast in this play called Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. And I was so ashamed of my performances and rehearsals that sometimes I would call in sick because of all the anxiety, and I just really never felt I was doing good. But then one day, the artistic director, Stephanie Shine, who had all this tremendous experience as a Shakespearean director, she was the head of Seattle Shakespeare, she sat me down to let me know how I was doing. And of course, in this moment, I was thinking, this is it. This is probably when I'm going to get let go. But she sat me down, and she has these big, beautiful Irish eyes that blaze through you. And she looked at me and she said, Dorius, I love your work. And when she said that, it seemed like all this amazing energy came back. It seemed like everything that was dismembered in me with that Bible group was remembered back within me, and I remembered who I was. I remembered whose I was. And it helped me soar, and I've never been the same as an actor again because of her influence. I want to leave you with another ending to the story of the chicken and the eagle. So the big old brown beautiful bird was flying in the sky, soaring in the winds, and the big old brown beautiful bird saw the eagle playing with the chickens, and he said, "Hey there, young fella, what you doing out there with all them chickens? Why don't you come on up here with me and fly high in the sky and soar in the winds?" But the eagle, who thought he was chicken, said, "Excuse me, sir, you great mistaken. I am a chicken." But the big old brown bird laughed and said, "Woo, the devil is a lie. You are an eagle. Why, look at your big old brown feathers. Help protect you when you're flying close to the sun. And look at your big old brown wings. Help power yourself up here. And whoo, look at your big old feet." You know, help you catch your prey, and your fierce eyes that help you have great vision. Well, the chicken said, "Don't listen to the big old brown bird in the sky. He's lying to you. Besides, nobody's allowed to fly any higher than any of us can fly. You are a chicken. You're just a deformed chicken. That's the reason why you look the way you do." Well, in this moment, the eagle, who thought he was a chicken, had to make a choice. He could choose to believe he was an eagle, or he could choose to believe he was a chicken. And there was a sense of freedom in the choice. So he chose to believe he was an eagle. And he began to flap his wings, and he flew higher and higher, and grew stronger and stronger, and flew high into his destiny, when he would say, "I am the wind," says the eagle within. "I am the wind that wrestles the air grown thin. I am the strength you found my weakness in. But in my weakness then I find my blessings begin. Suffering is the daughter of struggle. Struggle is the grandmother of success," he said. "Success is the man-child of miracles, crucified by jealousy, the closest friend. Resurrection is overcoming hatred. Hatred is the uncle of revenge. Revenge is converted by love. Love makes broken hearts mend. Mended hearts bring truth. Truth is the root that makes the tallest tree ascend. These trees create the oxygen that makes me again the wind. These wings, my heart, these wings that soar across the sky. These wings, I am the breath beneath the butterfly. These wings, this grace that glides along the wind. These wings that make rejected stones ascend. These wings, fresh faith, I was the doubting door. I am no more, but am that stone that with the Christ pristine angels adore. These wings, you hear the sound that sings and rings the bells beneath bathing streams, baptized in crystal fire, never again to live beneath the higher light, letting loose like lightning, looking lethal, lurid little leaves, lubricating love that is launched from the Lord, triple darkness overcome, but not the sun. He be the righteous one. His rock cannot be moved. He is the King of glory. His name, my friend, I am that I am. Therefore I am the wind. You are the wind, says the eagle within. You are the wind that wrestles the air grown thin. You are the one they found weakness in, but in your weakness then